Hello out there, you wonderful people. This is Andre, the Game Idea Guy. Thank you once again for lending me your time and your ear and listening into a combined 3DS game ideas video as well as a pitch for Switch video where I will be talking about not Valis 4, not Super Valis 4, but Ultimate Valis 4. No, actually, the thought for this came up for me a while ago, and I just couldn't figure out how I wanted to articulate it back then. Articulated it. I think that's what I just said. Already off to a bad start. I've been somebody who loved like the Valis series for a long time. I've played at least one version of each of the games. There are multiple versions of the games strewn about multiple different platforms. Some with differing information than others. Some with story plot lines that are missing from other versions of the games. Some with stages that are missing from other versions. And Valis 4 is no exception to that rule. Valis 4 on a PC engine, which would have been TurboGrafx 16 in the US, but it never got localized for the US for PC engine, unfortunately. So Super Valis 4 was the only version of that game that we got localized, and I looked at this like I had always been curious about what the original version of the game was like, because Super Valis 4 to me was awesome. Like, it was a great game. It might have been lacking a little bit in the story department because it was really more just about the action of the game than it was the full-on story. But I did some research, come to find out it also lacked a couple stages. All of the stages were reconfigured for Super Valis 4. All of them were reconfigured because the way the game plays is vastly different from how Valis 4 plays. Both games control very differently. And I know that because I was too curious. It's not like I can buy a PC engine right this moment and buy Valis 4 for cheap and get both games and play it and sit down and play it for an extended period of time. So I had to emulate Valis 4. I had to emulate it. Well, Super Valis 4 is definitely the superior game as far as like combat goes, like how the game plays and how fluid it is. I give that to Super Valis 4. Valis 4, however, has additional characters that you can play with. There are more stages and there are more sections to stages, and each character plays differently, and depending on who you're using at certain points in time, you'll have to switch to another character in order to make a certain jump or to progress to a certain area, which is not in Valis 4 because you only play with the girl whose name Lena Brandt, who is the successor to Yuko. In Valis 4, you actually had to fight Yuko in order to obtain to get the sword and obtain the Valis armor. Super Nintendo game, you don't. You basically start off with the sword, even though it doesn't really say it, and you are able to obtain the Valis armor through an item. And I was thinking about, like, how the hell would you combine these two games into one set piece? Because you have to pick whichever gameplay style that you want to go with. Now, if we're going for gameplay styling, like how it moves and plays, I would pick Super Valis 4. Like I said, like that's the superior version as far as how it plays. Because Valis 4 it's kind of stiff in comparison. Like, and I've played both of them, so Valis 4 is stiff in comparison, but it's also the older version of the game, so I can't really be mad about that. But Super Valis 4 is definitely better in that regard. Having all of the characters be playable, where you have Lena and her sister being able to be playable, and then the one male character that you get to play with in the Valis game, the only male character that you get to play with in the Valis game, who I think just happens to be the son of the character that you're supposed to be fighting, of the enemy that you're taking on. I think he's the son of the enemy you're taking on. Damn it, I can't remember his name. I'm not really familiar with the character, so I can't think of his name off the top of my head. But there was a male alien that you could play with. Valis, or a demon, whatever you want to call him. I would put all of the characters back into the game, make them all playable. I would kill the timer from Valis 4, from the original version. I would take that away and stick with the boss meter being at the bottom of the stage, at the bottom of the screen, and it fills up the longer you take, the stronger the boss gets. I actually like that concept, that the longer you take to get there, the stronger your opponent is going to be. Like, and what I would like them to do with that is to also ramp up the difficulty. The longer you take, the more difficult they're going to be to defeat, because they'll have more techniques available. Like have more moves and stuff available, depending on, I guess you could say, as they get weaker, they have less moves. So that way, the health meter has a dual purpose. The higher up it is, the more stuff that they're capable of doing, and as you beat on them, they become less capable of doing. They lose abilities as you're fighting them. Like that would actually be pretty cool. I don't think that Super Valis 4 worked in that way. It would be nice if it did, but I don't think it ever did. And I was never one to waste time and wait for them to get to full power. Like, I never would let them get to full power. I always charged in as fast as I could. I'm trying to think. Because those are two things that I definitely want to keep from Valis 4. As well as possibly bringing over the items that are available in Valis 4, but allowing all of the characters to be able to use them, not just Lena. But as far as how the HUD looks, I would take the Valis 4 look. That looks better to me. Like, I think that HUD better, and that HUD better represents the series overall anyway, because that's how it's so similar to the other versions of the different HUDs that were in the Valis games. So I would rather use what's more familiar to the series than the one that Super Valis 4 had, which is kind of odd and different. I mean, it's not bad, it's just different from how the other ones were. And I guess that was more or less based on how the game was supposed to play, the reason that was so different. But I'd rather stick with the original style that they had. Being able to swap characters on the fly, yeah, I would keep that up. Being able to swap characters on the fly, because again, certain characters' abilities allow you to get to certain places. I would probably stick with the SNES layout, because the playstyle would be similar to that one. But I would add in sections that are from the original version, like the training room that you get with Cham. That's not in the Super Nintendo game. It's in Valis for PC Engine, but it's not in the Super Nintendo game whatsoever. It's not there. Like, and to be fair, you don't need it, but it would be nice to have it. Like, because Lena was trained under Cham, who's one of the characters that go alongside Yuko. So I'm looking at this like, and when I looked at it, I was like, damn, that's my girl Cham from Valis 3. She's in here. She's like, you don't play with her, but she's there. Damn, what else was I thinking about? It's just like, when I looked at it, I'm like, that's one of the things I liked about Valis, is that you have multiple different characters for different play styles. In Valis 4, Super Valis 4 kind of took that away, but and I don't want to be too mad, because I know Atlas was the guys that developed that game. That they were the ones that developed it, and it's a good game. all by itself is a very, very good game. But when you compare like the story elements to its the original version that was taken from, like it's a little lackluster in that department because it's missing a whole hell of a lot of stuff. Like you get like 1 or 2 screens, and then you're basically just going through all the stages at that point, without much of a story added to it from there. And I would keep all of the cutscenes from the original. I would keep all of the cutscenes from the original, maybe rework them, revamp them. Obviously, they'll have to redo all the voice acting and all the stuff because the original did have voice acting, if I remember right. For certain cutscenes, it did have voice acting. I wouldn't care if the voice acting was all done in Japanese as long as they got English subtitles. That doesn't bother me. That wouldn't bug me at all. So, I was trying to think with the 3DS version and oh, that's right. One other thing I would like to say, keep the original name for the boss, because it was changed to Gallagher on Super Nintendo, but that was not what his original name was. I would stick with the original name, go back to what he was called before. I just can't remember what it is. I looked all this crap up too, that's the bad thing, but I just cannot remember right now. Now, differences between the 3DS version and Switch version. Obviously, Switch version can be played on a television and it would be in HD. So I'd also expect it to have a little slightly better sound quality. Then also on top of that, HD rumble. But like, there's no way I could play that game on that without HD rumble. It would have to have HD rumble to separate itself from the 3DS game. The 3DS game would have the usage of the dual screens, where you could have the bottom screen allow you to quickly pick which characters you want to swap to, which would be cool, and or allow you to take your heads up display and just put it down at the bottom, put like all of that type of information down at the bottom on the bottom screen. That way the top screen is just the gameplay and action itself. Which I swear that's something that really got neglected. That should have been done a lot with the 3DS as well as with the Wii U. It got neglected. But that's about it. I would think to keep the game playing pretty much the same. Like, play exactly the same on both platforms. If I've talked about Valis like several times on my channel, like, and I want more people to be interested in it because I want to see the series come back. And I think I did a video individually talking about the first game as well. I think that was a Why You Know Game video, or maybe I was just talking about the series as a whole encompassed. But man. I want to see this come back. I so badly want to see Valis come back. And if we get a good game out of it, I think Sunsoft are the ones that own the rights to it currently. If they're still around. Either way, I think I would want Atlas to do the development on the game. Because they've proven themselves to be very good developers, and they did do the Super Nintendo port of Valis 4. So I would like to see them work on this and make both versions of the game, if it were possible to get that to happen. I would love to see it. And man, I would be all over this shit. I'm one, again, Valis is one of those series I grew up playing. So I would be all over getting a new Valis game. Especially if it's a good Valis game. I will play it like there's no tomorrow. I would play the shit out of that game until I beat it. Hell, I went back to playing Super Valis 4, and I was rusty as hell. But getting sidetracked as hell. point being, I want to see this come back, and I think that putting it on the 3DS because of the large install base is a good idea, and putting it on the Switch because the Switch has all this positive momentum at the same time is also a good idea. Which is why I didn't do 2 separate videos this week for them. I just combined it into one. But that's it. Thank you guys very much for listening. Keep your eyes and ears out for more stuff from me, and until the next time, please enjoy your games.